In today's video, a town hall hosted by Byron Donalds spirals out of control. Also, in breaking news, a federal judge has ruled Trump must give 21 days notice when deporting. And Rosie O'Donnell has a special message for America.
No, don't move. Don't move. Are you ready? You ready for the other half of it? The previous president, President Biden. So you don't want to hear, you do not want to hear the full story. You don't want to hear the full story. Allow me to educate and bring you the full story. And when you're ready, I'm going to tell you, because I don't want you to yell and not hear the full story. Because then you're not listening, you're yelling. Here we go. I'm going to tell you the full story. Here's the full story. The previous administration, Joe Biden, he authorized 53 students to have access to the same database during his administration. 53. He authorized 53 students to have access to the Social Security database. And I didn't hear anybody being upset when Joe Biden authorized them. So how can you be upset when it's that versus Elon Musk?
Okay, let's just understand what's going on here. Byron Donalds hosted a town hall yesterday in Florida. We know he's running for governor of that state, but he still serves in Congress and he's trying to communicate with his constituents. But there's only one problem. Apparently, there are Democrat activists showing up at these town halls. That's the theory here. Why else would this outrage be as dramatic as it is? But let's just say those are all Republicans in that building. Clearly, they are eating up everything CNN and MSDNC has been spewing, that everything that Doge is doing is a scam. However, there's a problem with that. The Government Accountability Office has confirmed the billions of fraud, waste, and abuse occurring in these systems. Every single year, citizens are being scammed out of their Social Security checks. But you don't hear any outrage about that.
That is not true. Again, if you're going to have a conversation about policy, then answer the question. Chancing is not going to make the easy question. Donald Trump authorized Elon Musk to have access. I agree with that. Do you know who else agrees with it? Joe Biden. Because Joe Biden gave similar access to 53 students during his administration. Do you want, this is my question for the audience. Do you want to yell or do you want to hear? Because if you want to hear, I'm trying to give you information.
And that information that Byron Donalds is trying to communicate really comes down to three main points. One, the Treasury Department was hacked multiple times under the Biden administration. You never heard about it. Why? Because it's peak hypocrisy from Democrats, obviously. Number two, the GAO, like I stated earlier, the Government Accountability Office, billions in Social Security fraud. No one had anything to say. And three, the Biden administration allowed, like he was saying, 53 paid researchers who are from China to have access to IRS data systems. And obviously people will push back and say, well, Devorah, that already happened in the past. So what difference does it make today? Well, that's what Elon Musk and Doge is trying to accomplish, is to prevent that from happening again.
I don't agree. What the Doge is doing is they're examining the records. They're providing their findings. Congress has to weigh in on those.
They're firing people!
This works. If you're just upset because Donald Trump has Elon Musk doing it, then that doesn't make any sense. We have to make sense. We have to agree on certain things.
Okay, so this isn't the first time a president has obviously fired federal workers. We know that. President Clinton did it, but it's President Trump. It doesn't matter if he went about this the slow way, the surgical way. They are going to criticize it regardless. Okay, now here's Scott Jennings responding to the idea that Republicans are doing these town halls.
Would you be holding town halls? Do you recommend it?
I mean, I guess it depends on what you want how you want to spend your nights, getting yelled at by unhinged boomer Democrats. I mean, do you see like these people? And Karen said some things that were correct about people having some concern about the economy. Absolutely true. That's usually the top concern for voters. But did you hear the voter that we played? Elon Musk is personally invading my Social Security file. And that's not the mark of someone who's concerned about the economy. That's the mark of someone who's an unhinged boomer, Democrat, partisan activist who showed up to yell at a Republican. They didn't vote for Donald Trump before. They're not going to vote for him.
We don't know if they're a Democrat, but two, if they're a voter in the district, no matter what you think of their opinion of it,
but that person thinks that Elon Musk is personally invading his Social Security file. I mean, think about the level of conspiracy theory partisanship that you'd have to engage in to believe that the world's richest man is getting into your Social Security file.
I can definitely point you to some conspiracy theories that took us down some holes for many.
You asked me my opinion on these town halls.
Cycles.
I'm telling you, Democrats love to do nothing more than show up and yell at Republicans. They used to do it mostly online. Byron Donalds goes and takes the punishment in person. Good for him, I guess. But I also think you have to understand these are not representative of overall districts.
That is true. I will say that is true. It is definitely representative of a temperature of what's happening in
Democrats are mad.
Out in the
I
country.
agree.
Now, that wasn't the only Republican town hall last night. There was another one hosted by Nancy Mace. And this one was interesting because she wanted to give a moment of silence to American citizens who had been murdered by illegal aliens from her state. Well, turns out not everybody agreed. They actually wanted a moment of silence for Pope Francis instead.
And we will bless the Pope now because the Pope has just passed too. We should have brought that up and had a moment of silence because the Pope has just passed. Thank you. Show some respect.
Maybe you could start with respecting young men and women who've been killed in South Carolina by illegal immigrants, like Maddie Hines, who's a 4-year-old girl from the upstate who was killed by an illegal, or the infant in Beaufort County last year who was killed by an illegal immigrant, or Nathaniel Baker, who was killed on campus here just a few short weeks ago in an enormous tragedy for this campus. Why don't we start with respecting the lives lost at the hands of murderous illegal aliens? We can start there, and God bless each and every one of those souls whose lives were stolen. Lives were stolen by an illegal alien, 100%.
I mean, I wonder how much are these people getting paid to attend these town halls? I'm really curious. And if not, I mean, I find it hard that these are Republicans. I'm really struggling with believing that. I mean, if you guys can tell me why that might be true, put it in the comment section. But I just don't see why a Republican would think this way and how this behavior has been, I guess, continuing to escalate at these town halls where they obviously get kicked out. All right, so now to our other story, which is breaking news. A new federal judge out of Colorado, Rogue, is now ordering the Trump administration to give migrants 21 days notice if they're being deported using the Alien Enemies Act.
We have some breaking news, and I want to bring this to you, Lisa, while I have you. A brand new federal judge ruling saying that the Trump administration has to give 21 days notice to Venezuelan migrants in Colorado. Talk about this case and what we know about it.
Well, Chris, based on the Supreme Court's decision on April 7th in the case that had been before Judge Boasberg, you'll recall that plaintiffs who are detainees now have to bring cases all over the country where they are detained and where they fear that they will be deported and then imprisoned. This case is an outgrowth from that. This case is being brought on behalf of those who are detained in Colorado. And one of the arguments that the ACLU has been making before the Supreme Court, but also before district courts, is that reasonable notice means more than 24 hours, which is how the administration has construed it. Here they are finding now a federal judge who agrees with them, who says you need at least 21 days notice so that you have an opportunity to be heard, so that you can exercise your rights in court and challenge the government's asserted deportation of you to another country and before you go into what is effectively a legal black hole in El Salvador where you may never come back.
Now, what I find to be interesting, again, I'm not the legal expert here, but if the Alien Enemies Act is supposed to expedite the deportation process, why would a federal judge order that process to be delayed? It's almost a contradiction of the law itself. And secondly, if you heard what she said at the end there, well, we don't want them to fall into some black hole in another country because that means they won't be able to come back. Come back where? To our country? They entered our country illegally. Why would they come back here? That doesn't make any sense. This next clip is from Senator Van Hollen last night being confronted by Caitlin Collins with a simple question. How do you know the guy is not MS-13?
You told my colleague Dana Bash yesterday that you did not ask Abrigo Garcia whether or not he's actually in MS-13. You said you know what his answer is. But how do you know if you did not ask him?
Well, because I know what he's said many times in court, and that's the proper forum for debating this. And as we know, the federal district court judge in this case said, and I brought it with me again, and I'm going to read it, no evidence linking Abrego Garcia to MS-13 or to any terrorist activity, period. That has been what Abrego Garcia has been telling the court. And I would ask you, Caitlin, really, if I'd come back and said, oh, I asked him if he was an MS-13 and he said, no, he wasn't. I mean, right? The whole point is this is a conversation that's supposed to happen in court.
And that is the problem. It's our court system. So the federal level downplayed what the state level had reported in Mr. Garcia's case. It was the state judge that claimed that Mr. Garcia is MS-13 according to the documentation provided in court by police reports and from the gang task force. But the federal judge doesn't care about all that because there's a political motive here, and that is to stop President Trump.
You rightfully pointed out the Maryland man story, which I, from this podium, when The Atlantic published it, on that very first day, I came to this podium and said, this is wrong. The press in this room have this story wrong, and we have seen more and more evidence come to the table that we have had all along. We were always right. The president was always on the right side of this issue to deport this illegal criminal from our community. And it is despicable to see the media continue to refer to this individual as someone who is just a peaceful man living his life in Maryland. This was and always has been an illegal criminal, an MS-13 gang member, and a designated foreign terrorist, and the administration maintains our position to deport these individuals from our community. And
that's what happens with the media is they can run with the story because they have the infrastructure to push out a narrative before it's even fact-checked. And most people will believe it because they're not willing to do their own research. That's why I'm telling you guys, I will get things wrong on this show. There's no question. I always encourage you to hear both sides of the story and then go do your own research. Find the receipts, look at the documents, read it for yourself. Just don't take my word or anybody's word for it. That's the problem with our country. And when you think about Mr. Garcia's case and how Democrats are using this, including the media, it's as if this guy's getting more due process, attention, and respect than an American citizen.
And now we are being told that they cannot be expelled from our country without an extraordinary amount of individualized adjudication at the district court, circuit court, Supreme Court, up and down, up and down, up and down. No American citizen receives this level of so-called due process. Because it isn't due process. This is called infinity process to keep you here forever. Yeah. That's what this is.
Oh no, it's crazy.
No American citizen charged with a crime, with a serious crime inside the United States, a U.S.-born American citizen receives this kind of process. Millions of dollars in free legal services, representation at every single level. Do you think that there is any, for example, any American citizen who was persecuted, who was innocent related to January 6th? Do you think they could just get this kind of relief, this kind of process? No. It was never available to them. Yeah. The whole system was rigged against them, just like it's rigged in favor of illegal alien invaders.
So let's go to our next story, which is just filled with hypocrisy, by the way. And it starts with your favorite Rosie O'Donnell, who I guess has the motivation to come on CNN today and give her assessment of the economy in the Trump administration. Let's hear that now.
You've been a longtime critic of this Trump administration and a target of President Trump for that matter as well. What has it been like watching the last few months unfold from abroad?
It's been heartbreaking, I have to tell you. I knew that if I was in the United States and watched him destroy the country and the Constitution and really pay no mind to any of the laws that the founders stood by and that our country stands for as a beacon of shining light and freedom for the rest of the world, that should he do what the Heritage Foundation said he was going to do in that Project 2025, that we were going to be in big trouble. And it's as bad as they promised and even a little bit worse. And it's been heartbreaking and personally very, very sad to watch.
And I wonder was she sad to watch what happened over the past 4 years during Biden's term? Of course not. And people say, well, why do Republicans keep bringing that point up? Well, because it's true. I mean, you guys are outraged about every little thing that President Trump is doing, but where was the same level of outrage in regards to what Joe Biden failed to do? That's what I don't understand. And in case you want to know what their advice is for President Trump, they say that he should just do nothing.
All he had to do would have been to do absolutely nothing and just stay on a golf course all day, every day, and have nothing to do with government. Everyone in this country would be economically better off if Donald Trump had just done nothing.
Right. And so the hypocrisy here is that's exactly what they wanted Joe Biden clearly to do. And that's exactly what he did do, which was nothing. And we see how that turned out. And again, this is just pure bias and propaganda. We know that. Now, let's actually hear something that is factually true from a credible source. This is the CEO of Chevron and his take on the economy.
You don't think we're headed into a recession in your plans at this point?
You know, there's no signs that we see at this point that we're in or close to a recession. There are signs that growth may be slowing. And again, we have to always be prepared for that. But ours is a long cycle business. The capital we put to work in our business isn't there for just a few years. It's typically there for decades. So we really have to take a longer view and not get buffeted too much by short-term market moves.
Yeah, so that is a stunning blow to Democrats and their rhetoric. That President Trump is crashing the economy. We're heading into a recession. Well, if that was the case, why would he say something like that? Right? I mean, he has a lot of skin in the game. I don't think they care about what is true or false. It's about what they want people to believe. And to prove my point even further, here's what Hakeem Jeffries had to say.
What's up, everybody? Today, House Democrats will begin a week of action to highlight the high cost of living in the United States of America. America is too expensive. Housing costs are too high. Grocery costs are too high. Child care costs are too high. Insurance costs are too high. And utility costs are too high. America is too expensive. We need to build an affordable economy for you.
He's right. But my question is, Hakeem Jeffries, what is your solution? Where has been your solutions? They're non-existent, which is why they lost the election, or one of the reasons why they did. But guys, this is just pure hypocrisy from Democrats, right? They continue to claim that everything that's going wrong with our country is because of Donald Trump and has nothing to do with them. All right, so let's get your guys' reaction in the comment section below. What's your response to Byron Donalds catching a lot of heat at his town hall last night? Do you believe those are Democrats paid to be there and disrupt? Or do you believe there's Republicans actually upset at Byron Donalds? That's number one. And number two, the breaking news that a Colorado federal judge is ruling that the Trump administration must provide 21 days notice if they choose to use the Alien Enemies Act. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section below. Now, yesterday we uploaded a video showing you how 4 Democrats were humiliated when they went down to El Salvador and requested a meeting that ultimately was denied. Now, one of them is saying they're not going to leave until they can bring Mr. Garcia back. If you missed out on that video, more stories from yesterday, all you have to do is click on it because it's coming up right now.